Hello and welcome to today's episode of Dream Business, Dream Life. Today I am joined by Leanne Lorains. Leanne is an accredited strategist, passionate about helping ambitious people to grow a wildly successful business or career they love. With over 30 years of corporate business experience, Leanne specialises in optimising the customer journey, streamlining processes, recruitment and social media marketing. She firmly believes that success starts with a plan and likes to shake things up a little by keeping things simple and fun whilst making sure they are still remarkably effective. Hello, Leanne. Great to have you with us.
Hello, Emma, and thank you for having me. I am super excited to be here today.
And
So
I am
first,
super excited too, super excited. Just to pre-warn everybody, me and Leanne have a great relationship, so we might end up being a little bit naughty, but we will try to behave. We will try to behave. So, Leanne, take us through your journey from corporate to running your own business.
Thank you. Yeah, so 30 years, Emma. It's a long time, right?
It is.
3 decades of my life. And I want to start by saying it was an absolute privilege to work for the same global pharmaceutical company for the entirety of that 30 years. And I genuinely, honestly, would not change a thing. I had a varied career. I started in HR, worked in R&D, business development, facilities management before my final resting place of operations. And each department and each role brought different variety, opportunities and growth, and a whole heap of business experience. So I feel I was the luckiest girl alive. I got to work on some amazing projects, and most importantly, to work with some of the most talented, inspirational people who were curious and determined, people who were leaders. And those people shaped me into the person that I am today. Now, come on, this is corporate. So, of course, there were a few sticky patches and a few bumps in the road. That's only natural. But you know what? That's where I learned the best lessons. And if any of those people happen to be listening today, thank you, because that really is what has shaped me into who I am. So we're here to talk about growth. And I want to take you on a little journey now. I want to take you back to 2013. And I was, at that point, 20 years into my career. And we had a shock announcement. The company announced they were closing the Golden site in Cheshire, and they were going to build a new R&D facility in Cambridge, which was 125 miles away from home. It was like, wow, where has this come from? And, for me, it was a move that not that I wasn't prepared to make at the time. I wasn't able to make. I've got 3 daughters, and they were so little. They were 8, 10, and 17 at that time, and we loved, and we still love, our life in Cheshire. So had 2 options: relocate or take redundancy, and it was redundancy for me. And then what happened really was I had a 10-year redundancy period. The original plan was for the company to have made that move by 2016, but I'll explain that as I go through. And I guess I can only describe it really as it was the beginning of the end for me, but it was also the beginning of me. I guess I played it safe up to this point. I was terrified of change. I was terrified of feeling out of control, but it was fascinating for me to watch how other people responded to this news. And I think it's the first time I started to really take control of my career, and I started to be more strategic. I'd always been very driven, and you know that, Emma, that still comes through now, really passionate, a real high performer, but I had played it safe. So I took a risk. An opportunity came my way to take an 18-month secondment on a hybrid role working between Cheshire and Cambridge to recruit the Cambridge operations leadership team. So completely blank piece of paper to shape the future of what is now that new organisation in Cambridge. For me, Cambridge was a thorn in my side, and it was a big disruptor to my life. So why not throw myself into the middle of that disruption? So during the time of recruiting the leadership team, I also qualified as a project manager, and then another door opened, another opportunity in Cambridge to lead the project management office and service readiness for all of the services moving into this new facility. And I just want to just try and paint a picture for you about just how iconic this facility was or is. So it's a $1.3 billion R&D build. I was responsible for a $6 million operational readiness revenue budget. We were working with third-party outsourced suppliers, but we also had this conundrum because the timeline was extending. We've got people that had originally said they wanted to relocate. So we also, massive team of us, we also opened 8 satellite sites within the Cambridge area to enable those people to relocate, but also to start the recruitment. We couldn't just open the doors of a new facility and then suddenly have a new team of people. So, oh my goodness, I'm a mum of 3, a very hands-on mum of 3. I found myself working away from home for majority of my time. And when I look back now, it was wild, honestly. I mean, we worked hard, we played hard as well. And it absolutely was a once in a lifetime opportunity. I can only describe it as a project on Red Bull. I will never have the opportunity to work on anything like that again. And actually, I don't think I would want to, because when I look back, I don't know how I did it, Emma, but it felt normal at the time. I was surrounded by people doing the same as me. We were all battling our way through security control at Manchester Airport. And if you know Manchester Airport, that is not a pleasure. At 6 o'clock on a Monday morning, week in, week out. Yes, we were privileged. We had a private plane that flew us to Cambridge, and then it would fly us back on Thursday, and we'd unpack our suitcase and do the washing and all those things. And then we'd repeat it the following week. That felt the norm. It was a complicated build. There were construction challenges followed by the pandemic. So resulted in a delayed timeline, again, to liken it to a bit like Grand Designs, except I didn't have a baby in the middle of it. Those days were gone. And in 2022, we were nearing the end of the project, and we were preparing for occupancy in Cambridge, preparing to exit the site in Cheshire. And I suddenly became very, very anxious and exhausted and unsettled by it all, because there were all those rumours of who was going to be released when, and different timelines of people being released. And for the first time, I didn't want to go to work. It was the first time in these 30 years I just did not want to go to work. And I finally understood what the Sunday scaries meant. So I should just add in here at this point that in 2021, during lockdown, I'd set up a business with my husband. He's a joiner landscaper, and that had quickly grown to 6 figures. And I was finding that was giving me more enjoyment than my job. So deep breath, Leanne. And this, I made the decision. I took control. I made the phone call to say I wanted to take redundancy. It's a phone call I will never forget, and I still genuinely feel queasy about it. It was me taking control. But you see, I'd worked for that company since I was 15. I didn't know anything else.
And I can absolutely hear still today the emotion in your voice when you're saying that, because I know you obviously gave your heart and soul to that job as in your corporate career. You gave everything to it. So I imagine that was a very uncomfortable call to make. But I love the fact that you took control and you did it when you were ready. I mean, you must have a world record for the longest person ever to wait to take this redundancy. It must be the world record. Mm-hmm. So what happened next when you made this call?
So what happened next was, a month to the day, I found myself on garden leave. And whilst I'd planned my exit perfectly for me, I couldn't control what that next move was going to be by the organisation. And I found myself in a place I didn't expect to be. I'd never been in a place before. So I had 7 months garden leave on full pay. Yeah, really privileged. I acknowledge that, but that was longer than any of my 3 maternity leaves. Let's put this into context. I'd always worked full time, and I found myself totally lost in a really dark place that I can only liken to grief. My life literally turned upside down. And I don't want this to sound dramatic. This is real. It literally, the constant that had been there had been whipped from under me. It was horrendous. And the worst thing for me was the guilt and the shame that I'd made this happen. I'd made that call. I'd walked away, and my calendar was empty. My phone stopped ringing. Those people that had been closest to me, that I'd been living week in, week out with, they just slowly frittered away. And it hurt. It still hurts, I'm not going to lie. At the same time, on a personal level, Phoebe, our youngest daughter, passed her driving test, so she didn't even need mum's taxi to take her to work and pick her up. And I kind of had lost all purpose. And this is where it gets quite funny for me, because ironically, it was experiencing what was supposed to be a positive outplacement support was absolutely atrocious. But it helped me to get clarity and to know exactly what I wanted to do next. So I never met this poor boy. We can only call him a boy. I feel like I could have been his mother. And it was quite comical. There's me having literally a midlife crisis. Literally, I'd never met him on the phone. We had to talk every couple of weeks. And he clearly wanted me to take option A. He would help me to position myself to get a job, which, given my background, I didn't really need that help. Or option B, I could use the funding that I had to take a course. A course in what? I never quite understood what he wanted me to do. He had zero empathy, and he just could not resonate with me and my situation. The only suggestion he could make to me was perhaps he could help me to update my CV. So fair to say, that didn't last. It didn't go particularly well. I politely declined, because I needed time to peel back the layers, Emma, to find me, to dust myself off. And it was time to bring my dreams to life.
Wow. I'm sorry, I was holding back the laughing there when you were saying he was trying to help you with your CV, because I know that is something that you help other people with, because you have so much experience of that. So I just found that bit quite amusing. Sorry that somebody was offering to help you with something that you've just done for, a however many £1 billion project. Okay, so time to build the dream. What was the dream? Or should I say, what is the dream?
Yeah, so the dream was I didn't want to go to another job, because for me, nothing could compare to what I'd just done. The dream was, I'd had a taste of having our own business. My husband's business was flourishing, but I wanted that for myself. And I guess a challenge I had was, you come out of corporate with so many skills and so many transferable skills and experience. How do you funnel that down into a business? And who did I want to work with? But I was really clear. I wanted to work with people like me, and I wanted to be that thing that had been missing for me, that person that could help somebody to transition from corporate into their own business. So I'm really super clear on who I work with, and that is ambitious people. And I know the experts out there will be like, you need to narrow it down, Leanne, but I want to work with ambitious people who want to build a wildly successful business or career. And I do believe there's a place for both, that they love, because I firmly believe nobody should go to work, to a job, a business, or whatever's classed as work, that they hate. And I do feel, sadly, that I come across, and I know I've got friends and family that live for the weekend. They live for that next holiday. That they're not happy. And bigger than that, I want to help people to create a life that they don't feel that they want to or need to escape from. And I just wish there'd been somebody that I knew doing this when I was in that situation.
Yeah, and I totally get that. There's exactly the same position I was in. I was going from business to business, not corporate to business, but in exactly the same position, needing that somebody to just sort of say, it'll be okay. This is what you have to do. Okay, so you come into this online world. You've already had a really successful corporate career. You've built a 6-figure business with your husband. You start your own business. What does that feel like? Is it sort of a case of, I've done this once, I can just copy everything that I've done and do it again? Is that what it felt like when you started your new business?
I thought it was going to be. I honestly did. And that was the biggest lesson in that. I think so. My husband's a joiner landscaper, and I laid the foundations, I did all the strategic. He just wants to make stuff. He wants to go into somebody's garden and transform it. So I was able to be the strategist, in his business. And I could do all of his social media, pretending to be him. I still do that now. People, he goes to see customers and they talk about, and he doesn't have a clue. He doesn't use social media or the online world. And I thought I was going to be able to replicate that with me. But what I was feeling almost naked. I was so vulnerable. And oh my goodness, the online world. Forget I've got 30 years experience. That online space, when you first come into it, it's a beast. It still is. There's so many. I always say, can I say a rude word?
Go for
Um,
it.
Opinions are like arseholes, and everybody's got one. Literally.
Good point. Good point.
Every, everybody is, and it's just so like almost like a rabbit in the headlights.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I felt exactly the same when I moved from one. Everybody always tells me that my previous business was an online business. Well, absolutely it was, in the sense that it was an e-commerce business online. You buy things on a website, but nothing else was the same. There was no other similarity, I can't even say that word, between the two businesses. They were completely different monsters. You go from when it's a product-based business, the product is what people are buying. The product is what you are selling. When you come into a business where suddenly it's a service based and you are the person selling the service, suddenly you've got to be able to do things for yourself. You've got to be able to sell yourself. You've got to be able to talk about yourself. And it's a completely different animal. And that's before we even get started on, some of the other things. And I know we had a conversation recently, and I said something along the lines of, just get a freebie out there, Leanne, just get a freebie out there. And I know you throw this back at me regularly. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Because I think that was a great learning for people.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've called it a freebie today, but when people start talking about a lead magnet, a what? I'm sorry. What the hell is a lead magnet? I didn't need that in my corporate career, did I? So yeah, let's call it a freebie today. And I think that was one of the challenges. There's so many people out there making this look easy. And I want to be really real about this. I'm a firm believer that business isn't complicated. People make business complicated, but business is hard. There's a difference between hard and complicated. And just creating a freebie. So first of all, you need to know what it is that you want, what's going to add value, what's going to appeal, who your audience are. Create that freebie. Okay, so you've got the plan in your mind, but then you've actually physically got to get the template together and create a physical document. You then have to have a landing page. A landing page? What is a landing page? And all of these terms that are banded around, and then an email nurture sequence. And I feel really fortunate that you are in my world. I am in your world. And I mean, how many silly questions do I ask you, Emma?
No question is a silly question. I think that's the thing, isn't it? We all have to remember we all ask them. And when I first came into this world, you wouldn't believe the things that I Googled. I found an old notebook recently from some training, all these free challenges that we get involved in at the beginning. We do them all, don't we? And I found an old notebook that had got some of the notes in there. And I'd actually got a page in the notebook that said Google. And it was a list of words and phrases where people had said things. I'm thinking, well, I don't know what one of them is. I've just walked away from a business turning over in excess of £1 million a year. How? When I don't even know what one of these things is.
Exactly. It's like a foreign language, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I know you have that in corporate with all different acronyms and things, but and I remember putting my freebie out there and thinking, okay, so I've ticked all of those boxes, I've created it, I've done my landing page, I've done my email nurture sequence. So come on, guys, everyone, come and of course everyone wants it. And yeah, it's just, there's just so many different elements of it, and all the time you're trying to, you've got social media and trying to position yourself in this market.
Yeah, yeah. And you're very clear from the beginning here that your dream was to grow a business that you love. That's what you help other people do. Therefore, you want to do that yourself. So
Yeah.
for you, that has got to be doing it in a way you enjoy doing, which isn't necessarily, is it, just replicating what other people do and doing the same as other people. And I think that's important, isn't it? So if there was somebody out there now who's listening to this that's thinking, do you know what, I'm just starting out here and I haven't got a clue where to start. What would you suggest that they do? Where would you suggest they go?
Okay, so this for me is where I maybe get a little bit more serious, in that I think starting out, I think the first question is, are you serious about this, or are you playing at it? And I think there are two very different things there. For the serious, the action takers, the roll up your sleeves, the wildly ambitious people, I think there's a course for everything. There's a free challenge for everything. There's a masterclass for everything. But it's about getting super clear on what good looks like, and having that clarity. For me, you're always going to get the best results by working one-to-one with somebody, because that's bespoke to you. And I've invested a lot of money in me. And I would always suggest to people that they invest what they can. And I think there are different price points out there. And, but my biggest tip is to do your homework, your due diligence, as it would be known in the corporate world. Because unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there that are shouting from the rooftops. They are the big I am, how amazing they are. They're charging a lot of money, when actually they can't help you specifically. And this is where it has to get back to being personal about you. Just because somebody has won awards, and there's a whole different topic on awards here, doesn't mean they are the right person for you, doesn't mean they are the best person. I have a saying there, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And for me, it's about finding somebody that has the right experience for you, somebody that has walked the walk, not just talked the talk. And most importantly, somebody that you connect with, somebody that you'd want to go out for dinner with, somebody that you can have fun with. Because you can find the best person, but if your values aren't aligned, or you've got children, they've never had children, they're telling you to work 24/7 when actually you don't, that isn't what good looks like for you. So and just to try and have some fun along the way, because you're already breaking boundaries by being bold and following your dream. It's easy to just take another job, or to stay the same and not do anything, but just do your homework.
Amazing, amazing. So finally, Leanne, if any of our
Mhm.
listeners want to learn more about you, where is the best place for them to connect with you?
So I've got my own website with lots of information on there, so leannelorains.com. But I think I'm me on my socials, on my Instagram account, which is Leanne Lorains Strategy. I'm always on stories, I'm living my life, and that what you see is what you get on Instagram. I'm on Facebook and I'm on LinkedIn as well, but Instagram is definitely the real Leanne.
The real Leanne. And I will vouch for that. 100% I will vouch for that. And if you love horses and dogs, definitely go and give Leanne a follow. So thank you so much for joining me today. It's been absolutely amazing, as ever, chatting with you. I have loved exploring your journey. I've loved talking about how you've taken your huge wealth of experience from the corporate world and turned that into a business that you love. And now the fact that you take that and help other people. Absolutely love it. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you to everybody else for listening. We will see you next time.